Hello and welcome to part 2 of our mini video series, The 7 Ways to Be an Informed Buyer and Beat the High Cost of a College Education. My name is Matt Heisey and I'm principal owner of the College Funding Connection. And again, this is part 2 of a series of 7 videos that we'll be doing over the course of the next several days. So I hope you can join us for other parts in the series as well. So today we'll be looking at secret number 2, why high school financial aid nights can be hazardous to your wealth. So what is financial aid planning anyway? A lot of people don't really understand what it means, so I thought we could just kind of look at a simple definition here. But it's really about learning the legally established financial aid rules and then using these rules to select appropriate colleges and then also to arrange your personal finances so that you qualify for the most amount of financial aid that's available to you. So first of all, before I get too far into the video here today, just wanted to make it very clear that this is not intended as a criticism of high school professionals, teachers, guidance counselors, principals, administrators, or anyone else. We see this as an educational tool. So if you are a high school professional, hopefully you'll learn something as we go through the video series. And hopefully you'll use some of this information to enhance maybe some of the financial aid educational events that you're doing at your local high school. But it's important to understand the difference between applying for financial aid and planning for financial aid. And I think a lot of times the disconnect is that what's presented is basically presentation about filling in blanks on a FAFSA form. That's and I'll talk about my own experience with a financial aid night here in a little bit. But really planning starts much earlier than that. Filling out the financial aid form is the very last step in the process, or one of the last steps. Planning for financial aid sometimes can take years. A good plan usually starts a year or two before a family actually applies for aid. So that's what we really want to focus on today. And then really understanding everybody's roles. High school professionals and college professionals are educators and or administrators usually. So they really don't have the necessary financial aid, financial training or the credentials or the licensing to really be able to advise families about personal finance. In some cases, in some states, it's actually against the law. So you have to really have the experience and or the licensing to be able to counsel families through this process. And that's what we wanted to focus on a little bit more here today. So a little bit about my own personal experience. And again, I don't mean this as a criticism. It just is what I experienced and what we see oftentimes. But I have 3 kids. My oldest is 20. But a couple of years ago, he brought home a flyer for a financial aid night at his high school. So I was curious, obviously being in the line of work that I am, decided to go. Didn't have a lot of background information about the event, so when I got there I was a little surprised to find out the person presenting was just one of the local financial aid officers from one of the local colleges. Wasn't a financial planner, wasn't somebody that has training in this area, really just somebody that ultimately decides how much financial aid a family will get. And I walked away from the event, although it was technically accurate, the person that was presenting was very knowledgeable about the FAFSA process. In the end, it really didn't provide a lot of guidance to families to educate them about how they might be able to save on the cost of college. More financial aid, less money. And it wasn't a big surprise because that person presenting that night was really more of an advocate for the college than for the families. Not that they're trying to cheat people, but at the end of the day, let's face it, colleges are businesses. So they're going to really try to attract the best students for the least amount of money. Whereas families and parents, and I'm one of them, I want to find the best school for my kids, but pay the school the least amount I have to, get more financial aid so that I don't have to come up with as much out of pocket. And that's not necessarily what the college financial aid officers are going to do. So when you're going to these events, consider the source. Who's giving the presentation? What is their role and agenda? Are they advocates primarily for the families, or do they work for the colleges and they're trying to get the best students for the least amount of money? And then are they discussing ways to save on the cost of college? Not just saving for college, but saving on the cost of college. And then getting more free money from the government and from the schools legally so that you don't have to finance as much. And if we see one big issue and really an epidemic that's forming right now, it's that families are borrowing way too much money. I see parents getting into tens of thousands of dollars in debt. payments that are exceeding their mortgage payment on their house so that they can send their kids to college. And a lot of times it's really not necessary. It just really becomes an education issue. So financial aid planning, I think the closest analogy that we can use is tax planning. And just like a good tax plan starts long before the tax forms are actually filed with the IRS, so should a financial aid plan start long before you actually fill out the financial aid applications, whether it's FAFSA profiles or whatever applications are required by the colleges. So one thing that we see commonly is that families have the colleges assist them in filling out their forms because the colleges will do it for free. And it really isn't the college's best interest to do that because they're going to certainly fill them out correctly, but they're not necessarily going to give the families an opportunity to rearrange their finances to qualify for more aid. And in some cases, in many cases, it won't make a difference for a family, but in many cases it does, and you want to know that. So one of the questions I ask, and I had this actually last year again with another family, but the mother came in and we were talking. They weren't actually clients of ours yet. We were discussing their circumstances, and her plan was to just take her personal financial information to the local college where her daughter was looking at and have them fill out the applications for her. So I asked her a very basic question. Do you have the IRS do your taxes for you? And she looked at me and said, well, no, of course I don't, as probably most of us would say. And I said, well, why not? So I kind of pressed a little bit. I said, it's a free service. The IRS will do it for you for free. You don't have to pay them. And you're also guaranteed never to be audited if they do it for you. And she just kind of looked at me sideways and says, oh, well, I would never do that because they're the ones that decide how much I got to pay them in taxes at the end of the year. Why would I have them do my tax forms for me? So she kind of looked at me again, and the light bulb kind of went off over her head because she kind of got my point. And, just like the IRS isn't going to counsel you on how to pay less in taxes, neither is the college going to counsel you on how to pay less for college because it's really not in their best interest to do that. So we're really going to show you the legal methods and look at every method out there to reduce your bill for the cost of college. So I wanted to look at a term that's used a lot, and it's called financial aid leveraging. And it's interesting, you can see at the bottom of the page here, Money Magazine did a survey and study back in 1998, but it still holds true today. And they basically went right to the sources, to the colleges and to some independent firms to figure out what the colleges do as they determine who gets financial aid and who doesn't. But 65% of the private colleges and 27% of the public colleges in their survey use a system called targeted aid. And what this means is that colleges are trying to determine how little aid needs to be awarded to a student to still get them to enroll at the college. So they're leveraging how much aid they can provide for a student and then how much aid the family's willing, or how much money the family's willing to come up with out of pocket. So Money Magazine also talked to more than one private consulting firm, but this is one that they referenced, USA Group Noel Levitz. And it's a consulting firm, a private consulting firm that colleges and universities hire. And their goal, and they were very frank about this, is to take advantage of the family's willingness to pay for college. So obviously not advocates for the family. Their client is the college or are the colleges. So they're not really going to counsel the family on how to rearrange finances or how to come up with less money if they can to pay for college, and basically force the college to come up with more financial aid for them. So what can families do? Well, first of all, it's important to educate yourself and understand the process. And here's a basic timeline that we use with our clients. On the left side, you see the strategic college planning period. And this period really begins at birth, continues through the student's senior year of high school. And primarily, this is the time where you're planning for and saving for college. And there's really no replacement for saving for college. It's critically important. But in the junior year of high school, when the student turns 17, around that time, really starts the tactical planning period. And this period begins in the junior year and then really extends throughout their college years. And at this point, it's when the colleges are starting to look at your finances more closely. It's when students are picking colleges. And you certainly want to try to pick colleges that are the most generous colleges with financial aid if you can. But a critical time in the planning period And the paradigm kind of changes at that point. You go from a saving mode into a tactical planning mode, and important to understand what needs to be done at that point. So one of the more common questions I get is, should I seek professional assistance here? Can we do this ourselves? And the answer is, I don't know, or most professionals wouldn't know until they actually talk with you. But here are a few guidelines that you can look at yourself and say, hey, do I meet one or more of these? The first one is home ownership. Do you have net equity in your house? Especially if you plan on using home equity to help pay for college. And I would say probably 70 to 80% of the families that I work with that have home equity do use it in some form or fashion nowadays because interest rates are pretty low. But if you have that, you want to see if it has any kind of positive or negative impact on your chances for financial aid, and then also your ability to pay for college. Household income ranging from $60,000 to $200,000. Within this range, we call it Category B, but these are families that are most likely to qualify for aid at some form of college, some type of college, private or public. So you may want to talk to someone if you have household income within that range. Do you have savings in excess of $30,000, especially if the savings is outside of qualified retirement accounts like 401ks or IRAs? So if you have liquid savings, maybe you have an inheritance, maybe you are a very good saver and you just saved extra money there. Business owners, another thing that we see. So if that's the case, then you probably do want to talk to someone to see if you're planning properly as the financial aid years approach for college. And then, do you have a student with a grade point average of 3.0 or higher, the college-bound student in your home? When you talk about financial aid, we're talking about merit aid and need-based aid. So for students that qualify for merit aid, we start to see the merit aid programs kind of taper off at a 3.0 grade point average. But it's a good guideline to follow, and you want to talk to someone to see if there might be merit dollars available as well. So if you do meet one or more of these guidelines, then I would consider talking with a professional to discuss your family's options. Now, a reputable, honest company should give you a free consultation initially, because at that point they don't know if they can help you, and they really shouldn't be charging you money if they can't provide any kind of ongoing assistance. So most companies should provide that initial consultation. So a couple action items today. First of all, when you're going to the financial aid nights and attending these events, keep an open mind when you're listening to the presenter, and understand that most event sponsors and high school professionals are not really well versed in financial aid rules and procedures. So they're not really financial professionals, so they may not understand what should be presented, but certainly take away what you can of value. But you want to make sure ultimately, if you're seeking assistance, that you're talking to someone that has your best interest in mind for your family. And then if necessary, seek out an initial consultation. So follow our guidelines and then talk with an experienced college funding advisor. And I can't stress that enough. May not be your financial planner that you work with, may not be your tax advisor. It has to be somebody that really has training in this area, and make sure that they have some experience in working with families doing financial aid planning specifically. And that's not the same as tax planning or other types of financial planning. But see if anything can be done then to improve your family's chances for financial aid. So the next steps, if you're interested, is learning more about your family's possibilities for college aid. This is something that our company will provide for you for free. We do offer a free initial, no obligation consultation. You can reach us through our website, which is www.collegefc.com. Just look for the Contact Us page. There you can provide your contact information. You can jot a note there, and we ask that you do that. Just let us know that you are interested in talking with one of our advisors for an initial consultation. We do meet by appointment, but we'll get in contact with you and get something on the calendar. Or you can simply call us at our toll-free number, which is 866-305-2321. Whoever you speak with on the phone, just let them know what you're interested in, and that you're interested in a consultation, and they'll schedule a time so you can meet with one of our advisors. So thanks again for joining us for part 2. Hopefully you got some useful information in this video. Again, we have 7 parts to this series. We have part 3 coming up pretty soon. And in part 3, we'll be focusing on how to send your student to a private college for less than the cost of a public university. So we hope you can join us for that. And until then, good luck with your college plans.